Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. I am your boy, Illeagle 86. I am joined as always by my good friends Techtic and Nerdbomber, and we have to just open one of many episodes where we've opened this way and talk about the weather. It's like kind of fall now, but it's like fall. It's like fall and not fall. Are you guys experiencing this?
Fall.
No, it's a roller coaster. It's fall,
and
then it's going to be 85 degrees, and then it's going to be fall, and then it's going to be 85 degrees, and then my sinuses are like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And my sinuses don't know.
Fahrenheit for our friends across the pond, and we're talking Fahrenheit. We're not all burning alive over here.
I don't know.
I'm experiencing, and maybe Nerdbomber, you're an allergy gal. Is that
yes.
true? Are you a gallergy? Are you
a big allergy time over here?
Are you experiencing what I'm experiencing, which is like the past 2 weeks? I have like, guys, this is gonna get gross. We're 1 minute into this episode. I'm having like, I wake up with like the most mild possible sore throat, a little bit of postnasal drip, and I'm like, is this? You ever see that meme where like it's the guy pointing at the butterfly and he's like, is this thing? I feel like I'm like, is this like, do I like have COVID? But it's just allergies, I think. And it's
well,
like
I mean, you also just
comes
had
and
COVID,
goes.
so you should be good for a while.
Well, that's right. Conventional wisdom is, I did just have COVID. I think I had COVID like a month ago now. So I'm fine, by the way. But I think it's that time of year where like my allerginess starts being like, oh, the seasons are starting to change. Time for us to ruin your lives for a little bit. But it's up, down. Today I wore a sweater, and anyone who knows me knows.
You love a good sweater.
Those are good days. I love wearing sweaters. It's one of the main thrusts of my personality, I feel like, which is unfortunate. But tomorrow, I can't wear a sweater. Tomorrow it's going to be hot. So my wardrobe is a mess. Let me tell you, though, we'll start with a PSA for this episode. And maybe you guys, I want your take on this. My wife and I have been doing a lot of sleeping with the windows open.
Oh, that's horrible for your allergies.
Where are you at on
doing?
sleeping with
They literally say, if you have bad allergies, do not do that.
It is really funny that I was just like, I'm waking up with a sore throat every day. And then I'm like, hey, sleep with the windows open. But I stand by it. I love sleeping with the windows open. When the temperature is right, when you get down into like the mid to low 60s at night, you can open those windows and just let the cool breeze waft in. You hear the crickets outside. Maybe you hear a little bit of rain. It's beautiful. It sounds like you guys don't do that, though.
Absolutely
Sounds like
not.
You're afraid.
And also, our windows aren't insulated well enough, so we can still hear the crickets. We just don't get the allergies.
So you're just always living the open
Yes.
window life, but against your will. It's, I mean, Labor Day's come and gone. Kids have started school in pretty much all necks of the woods in the US of A. So a lot of people would say, I mean, and actually it's like, there's like 12 days to go until it's actually officially fall.
There's 5 seasons.
Like what the calendar says.
There's winter, spring,
Go on.
summer, football season, and then fall.
Football is back. You're right. We shouldn't gloss over that because it's not one of the news topics here, but football has returned. All three of us football fans. I'm going to try and get ahead of the story here and say that I'm about to lose to Techtic in a fantasy league in week 1. So Techtic, I mean, the floor is yours. If there's anything you want to say to disparage me in front of the listeners, you've earned that right. I'm not going to take that away.
He made fun of my draft when we drafted.
Well, he got a C- draft grade. I mean, it's kind of my duty to make fun of him.
I feel like I'm at a point in my life
down on it.
where, like, by week 1, I'm just severely disappointed in my fantasy teams. And why do I do this? Why do I do this?
You'll come around.
Will I, though?
Everybody comes around. I mean, I guess that's for you to decide. I know that I would come around. I had a pretty bad week across the board, but I'm just, I'm trying to turn that frown upside down. You know, there's always next week. It's early yet. A lot can happen. If you've lost your first fantasy week out there, just keep the hope. Keep the dream alive. Anything is possible in spite of what Nerdbomber's already like the season's over. Which, that's an opinion you can have if you like. But I prefer to, in this specific instance only, look on the bright side. So let us know how you did in your first week of fantasy if you're a fantasy player. At OW Legal 86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber, and our main show account at Online Warriors 1. Those are our handles on Twitter/X. And we have a lot to talk about today. So we're going to be talking about the Minecraft movie we got a teaser for. We're going to be talking about the Phantom of the Opera, which I'll say right now, I've never seen it. Is that wrong of me to never? I'm like a kind of a musical guy, not like crazily so.
I'm
but like,
a little disappointed in
I
you.
feel like it's a gap for
I'm
me.
very disappointed.
It's a gap for me, but I may have a new opportunity to. Well, I don't know if I want to watch Phantom of the Opera the first time under these circumstances. We'll get into some news about the Phantom of the Opera. We will also talk about Concord, which I feel like we talked about like 3 weeks ago on this show. I know it was longer ago than that, but before we get into any of that, and we have a pre-show where we talk about various things and sundry, and oftentimes we touch on some of the news, we touch on things that are going on in our lives. I mean, we're pals. I held this back, not purposefully. You guys may have seen this news. Did you guys hear about James Earl Jones?
Yeah,
I feel like we should take a minute to just kind of recognize
the legend,
one of the goats in terms of just the voice that he had. I mean, Darth Vader, Field of Dreams. I mean, Lion King. There's so many credits to his name. It's a major loss. I have to admit, I don't know how much work he was still doing. I do think he was still like in the game, but he is kind of, again, I mean, thinking about just mentioning the Lion King and Star Wars, like at the ages that we are, not to age us, like he was a very formative presence in my childhood as a voice. One of the few performers to ever achieve an EGOT, which is kind of a big deal. I think there's like 12 people that have done that. I don't know the exact number, but it's a major, major loss. So just kind of wanted to, I felt it was appropriate, and I did this unilaterally. I didn't talk to you guys about this first, but like it felt appropriate to kind of recognize him and everything he's put in. He was 93. That's
wow.
Yeah. Let me ask a personal question to both of you. Do you want to live to be 93?
Absolutely.
Like,
I'll stick around.
I think I do too. Yeah, I think I do too.
Do you guys want to have
I know
a
some
bet?
people are like, oh man, that's way too long. A bet of what? Like who can make it to 93?
Like whoever gets, like, we'll have a pool. Whoever makes it the oldest gets the money.
It feels a little morbid. I'll get back to you.
I don't know if I want to make bets with Illeagle because we make bets with the trivia game and he doesn't uphold his end of the bargain. So
that's true. I haven't done that. Thanks for reminding the audience. I have not watched Hawkeye yet. I purportedly have to. I was going to say we bet who can get there first. And that was a joke. And also, I wouldn't even win that. Am I the youngest of the three of us? I don't even remember. I don't remember who's youngest or oldest.
Probably by the order of like months. So
yeah, because you guys are like the same.
Yeah, but
exact age.
Nerdbomber's grandma.
I'm not gonna. Don't worry. I'm not
100.
gonna say your birthdays.
So.
Oh, so you think she's in it for the long haul?
Yeah.
Damn right I am. Let's go.
Word. Let's pivot completely and talk about Minecraft. We got a minute and a half teaser for the Actually, it's called a Minecraft movie. It's not the Minecraft movie. It's a Minecraft movie. It was minute and a half long trailer. Let me start by saying I'm going to slam on this, but also I am self-aware enough to know that this is absolutely not a product that's for me. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, I guess, but I've never played the games, but also, what is the average age of Minecraft players?
It's
Do we have a
across
sense
the
of that?
entire board.
Because
And I think that's what's reflected.
so you think the average?
I
is
have
low,
coworkers that play Minecraft.
I think that's why this trailer kind of reflects that a little bit because there's some humor here that's obviously for adults, but there's also some humor here that's obviously for kids.
I thought this looked like the humor aside, the cast aside, because they got some like fairly big people. It looks like it was filmed in such a way, like if you showed me this trailer and were like, this was an SNL skit that they had like a week to film, I would believe you. Less in the sense of the animation, because I think that was pretty decent, but the live actors on sets was very hard to look at. And I'm around on like film Twitter, and maybe that's partially influenced my opinion, but I think there's basically widespread acknowledgement that like the lighting sources are all over the place. It looks very not uncanny valley, but like it doesn't look right. And I don't know, I kind of just got glued to that aspect pretty quick. Also, what is going on with Jason Momoa? Can we go through his look here?
It honestly,
or do we?
His look, it feels like they wanted to take his character from that Netflix Dream movie that I'd never watched. And do you remember? It was like he was in somebody's dream or something, like a dreamland. I don't know. It was like a Netflix original a while back, maybe a couple years ago. It was supposed to be a big deal.
I'll try and find that. I'll try and find that.
It's like that character's
talking,
persona. Obviously, he had horns in that movie that he did for Netflix. But like that character's persona in this new character. I feel like they kind of just like translated it over a little bit.
Well,
or maybe that's just Jason Momoa and how he acts in a movie like this.
I thought this movie was like the characters in the game were not the people outside of the game. I thought when they got sucked in the game and it turned them to like what their avatar was supposed to look like or something like that. And I thought that was the premise of it. So I think that's why they look like that. I think it's kind of like this hybrid between the real person and their avatar.
I think this is supposed to be like Jumanji, but Minecraft.
Yeah, I agreed. That's the vibe that I got. They're stuck in there, and purportedly they want to get out. I think, what this has going for it is, I believe, again, haven't played the game or any of the games whatsoever. I think the story world for what Minecraft is actually like surprisingly rich. And like, I think there are also a lot of very easy jokes for them to pull down, which I'm sure they're going to do. Like the like sight gag of like Jason Momoa putting those two things on the table and like whacking it with a hammer and then it becomes something else. Like, you're going to see a lot of stuff like that, I imagine. And that's, a good way to proceed, in my opinion. I don't know. Like, again, you guys tell me. Am I being a crank here?
I think maybe a little bit.
It feels like I'm being a crank.
I understand. So, like, when Jumanji originally, like, the remakes were announced, I looked at them and I was like, this is going to be horrible. Like, no shade to The Rock, but a little shade to The Rock. I was like, this is just going to be over the top, bombastic, and kind of like an affront to the original Jumanji movie. I don't like this. But then I ended up watching it and it was really entertaining. I'm not going to say it was this A+ movie, but if you like put it in the realm of family action movie, where the whole family can watch it and take something away from it and enjoy themselves, there's not that many movies these days. And Jumanji did it really well. And if they're basically trying to follow in Jumanji's footsteps, like the IP, sorry to, insult Jumanji here, but the IP of Minecraft is way, way, way bigger than Jumanji ever was, I feel like.
Agreed.
So you've got that inherent pull from all of the kids who have played Minecraft, all the adults who have played Minecraft, who want to see how this was adapted into, a live action movie. And then if you can like overlay some sort of entertaining story, they have a decent cast. I think this could be Jumanji level, which in my opinion, again, for a family movie, that's pretty good. Like,
well, let me be clear. Like, as much as I have misgivings, and I said this to my wife when we watched the trailer, like I was like, well, not for me, not going to watch it, but that's going to make $1 billion. Like, this movie's going to make $1 billion. It's going to be super, super successful. Pretty much, I think this is categorized, and this IP is categorized as, no matter what this is, it's going to make so much money.
Also, Jack Black. He's great. You can't go wrong with Jack.
He is great. I think he's well suited for what I think this is going to be. Directed by Jared Hess. And for those that do not know, the thing that I know Jared Hess for is Napoleon Dynamite, which I don't know if that sensibility lends itself to a movie like this. I guess we'll find out. I'm not saying it doesn't. I don't really know what sensibility that, could really be.
I don't think you can relate them. Napoleon Dynamite was lightning in a bottle. That movie had a budget of like $24,000 and was just this kind of like weird indie film that was kind of a passion project, and it just took off. You'll never recreate that ever again.
Love the crap out of that movie, by the way. I don't want anyone to mistake me what I'm saying. Like, Napoleon Dynamite, formative film for me. It came out when I was in like middle school, and love the crap out of that movie. Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to make $1 billion. I think there's a very high probability of it being successful. I wonder about like, in so much as I said the story world is rich, I question the amount. Let me ask another Minecraft demographic question. Like, what % of people who play Minecraft do you think play it for the story? Because again, I think the percentage is
very
pretty low. I think
everyone
we're talking
recognizes
like 15 to 20%.
Steve as like the main Minecraft character, but like everyone does it to be creative. It's a sandbox.
They just want to like build Minas Tirith. Like, I always see people like, I built this thing from Lord of the Rings, or like, I built this giant, like, yeah, it's people just, it's like Lego, but digital. Like, that's the way that I see it, which, it doesn't take away from it being a very valuable IP, but in terms of wrapping a story around this, it's potentially a tough challenge in terms of like getting people who know the story invested while also not alienating people who don't, which is probably a much larger portion of the people who are going to show up because this is Minecraft, right? I don't know how many people are going to go to watch this movie who have not played Minecraft, but it probably doesn't really matter. Again, I think this is going to be successful whether or not I watch it. It's coming out April 4th of 2025. I still kind of want to know what is going on with Jason Momoa's look. His character is called Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison. That's just me reading off Wikipedia. Also, I don't think she was in the trailer. Jennifer Coolidge is in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like I need to just say that.
She's
I feel
gonna
like-
want a hot dog real bad.
I feel like what is going to happen with this, and I'm predicting this now. Did you ever watch Jumanji?
I did. I watched the first one. I stopped after that. The first one was
Okay.
good. I liked it, but I stopped after that.
I think what's going to happen is we're all going to be like, we're going to sit this one out, and then we're going to see that it gets rave reviews, and then we're all going to sit this one in when it comes to like streaming or something.
Did we talk about Jumanji on the pod? It's way too far back for me to remember. But like,
What year did it come out? We've been doing this for almost 8 years.
Maybe I'm putting rose-colored glasses on. I don't remember being so down
I was really down on the
Jumanji
casting.
when
I hated the
on
casting.
the pod.
I was not a fan.
I feel like you're anti-rock. Are you anti-rock?
I'm not. But the original Jumanji was, I don't know, it wasn't a comedy. The original Jumanji was not a comedy, and I did not like the direction that they were going to take with it. It felt like an
That's fair.
affront
That's
to
fair.
what Jumanji was, and I didn't like it.
I think even for what it is, and now looking back on it and saying how good it was, because it was a good movie. It was a critical success. It was a commercial
bit of a
success.
comedy.
Like, I did enjoy watching it. It lacked the sentimentality of like the Robin Williams Jumanji, and you know what? Like all movies do now. Like I don't think that there are very, very few movies that have the sentimentality that Jumanji did, the original.
So the Jumanji remake
so I don't know if I can hold that
came
against
out
it.
in 2017. So
Yeah,
I think
talked
we probably
about
would
it.
have.
There's no way we
this.
didn't talk about it. At sometime on our own time, we'll have to go back and check the tape and see what we said about it. Because, like I said, I may be just putting on rose-colored glasses, being like, "No, I thought it was going to be good." In any case, I should also note before we move on from a Minecraft movie, this was announced in February of 2014. So this has been like kind of laboring in development hell for a while. Various people attached. Sean Levy, Rob McElhenney was apparently attached at one point, no longer involved. And as I said, Jennifer Coolidge is in it. Obviously, Jason Momoa, Jack Black, Jermaine Clement, who I tend to be a fan of, and Kate McKinnon of recent fame in like the Barbie movie and like a million other things. So anyways, April 4th, 2025, this comes out. We got things coming out. We have things going away. Let's talk about Concord, because again, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was definitely this year that we talked about this. It was probably something coming out of Summer Games Fest or something. That would be my guess. Someone can check the tape on that. Concord is a game that came out. Wait, when did it even come out? The story
like
here
a
is that
month ago.
it's gone.
Yeah, it came.
They took it
flopped,
away.
and it went within the span of a month, which I have so many thoughts about.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I will turn it over to you for your thoughts, but like just aloud, I wonder, and I don't have any answers. Like, what goes into a decision to just totally take it down? Like, what? I guess what would get worse if you kept it up? That's my first question. What is the benefit of taking it down? It came out August 23rd, so it's been out for it was out for 2 weeks, and they were like, oh God, this is a disaster. What could happen in those 2 weeks? This is probably documented somewhere, but I just don't understand how it could be going so badly that you have to just take the whole thing offline. And for what it's worth, and Nerdbomber, I will turn it over to you, but for what it's worth, there's a little bit of indefiniteness here. They basically said they're going to take the game offline and quote unquote explore options, including those that will better reach our players. So there's this idea that it may come back. People are being refunded who have purchased it on the PlayStation Store or on PC. But it sounds like they just kind of want to take it back and be like, okay, we screwed a lot of stuff up. We have to go in and
You have
fix
to
it.
understand.
I don't know what the time scale of that is.
In today's day and age, though, it's not just you roll out a game and then all of those resources that were working on the game can now work on other stuff. In today's day and age, with patches and constant updates and things like that, those resources are still affixed to that project. And so if it really is a dumpster fire, you're kind of either these people are just stuck with it, or they can't patch it timely because they're still also maintaining just the normal running of it. And there's other projects that they could be working on, and they're basically just leaving money on the table for something that could be amazing. This makes sense to me. I think people should be okay with saying, you know what? We just need to pull it back and like regroup. I'm good with this. I think this was a smart move.
I think my biggest problem with this, so one of the reasons that they pulled this game was because the concurrent player count, it was widely publicized when it launched because it was PlayStation exclusive for console, but then also launched on Steam, and the player counts on Steam were like abysmal, like horrible. No multiplayer massive release like this has had such bad player counts, and people are basically mocking the game, but there was a contingency of people who enjoyed the game. And I guess what I don't understand, and this is from a broader scope game preservation take, I get allowing people to return the game and turning servers off and being like, hey, this was a flop, we'll give you your money back. But for the subset of people who want to continue playing, what happened to peer-to-peer servers? Like, what happened to that? Because back in the like Xbox 360 and the PS2, PS3 era, if a game didn't have perpetual live services like every game does now, you could still play in private lobbies. You know, as you played, like you could host a server from your console and other people could then play with you still, and the game would not just disappear into the ether like what is happening right now. And it just seems like a wild move. Like, they gave the game 2 weeks, and like Techtic said, I get that there are resources that are involved in, you know, upkeep and rolling out updates and patches, etc. I get that. I really do. But you gave a game 2 weeks. Like, that seems wild.
It takes a massive amount of cojones to, after 2 weeks, come out and say, hey, we blew it. Here's your money back. We're going to retool, which is essentially what they're saying. I
don't think this is going to see the light of day. Like, they're not going to make adjustments. At this point, with the publicity, like, there have been games like No Man's Sky, which very publicly, I believe that was Kickstarted originally, and very publicly, like, it did not live up to expectations, but they didn't pull the game back. Like, it was a massive PR failure when that game first launched, but over time, they updated it, they fixed it, they listened to the community, and now it's a game that's widely beloved and people are still playing it. And I don't know. I feel like, especially too, when you think of all of these developers, and I know that's not a good reason to keep a game out if it's not working, but all of these developers sunk years of their lives on this game just for it all to disappear, and like, you can't play it at all. And I don't understand why private servers are not a thing. Like,
right.
I don't get it.
What if it turns out that there were government secrets hidden in the game?
That is wild, but I don't know about that.
Unlikely. It doesn't Cyberpunk also kind of fall into that category? Less beloved than No Man's Sky, but like, that game came out and it was basically a disaster, and I don't think they ever pulled it back. They were just like, okay, we're gonna do some work to fix it, and they did. And they, by all accounts, I think they did. Like, I think it still has its share of issues, but it's way better than it was now. So like, there's certainly precedent for fixing it and leaving it out there. This raises a lot of questions as far as like, was this the right decision? When is this decision justified? Like, Nerdbomber, it sounds like you're saying 2 weeks isn't enough time.
It doesn't, like, there.
What is enough time? I guess is my follow-up question to that. I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm not asking it like rhetorically. I'm just wondering, like, how long do you let a game, I guess, languish before you do something, whether it's pull the game off or release some statement? You know, it's hard to say. I think it's a hard thing to manage.
And I mean, this too, like, I think this also goes to show, and it's kind of like an illustrative case, that maybe live services aren't always the way to go. Like, the amount of money and resources that were sunk into making this game, because I think they had a 6-year development cycle on this one. I might be wrong. Someone out there on the internet fact check me. But in 6 years, to bank on a trend that was current at the time you started making the game, because this is from what I understand, like a hero shooter type game, and there's been so many of those that have launched and failed, and there's still those staples like Overwatch that are out there that are just the behemoth. No one can really touch them in the industry. And in one aspect, I don't want to be like, hey, don't try to create new things, because like, that's just bad for gamers. But also, like, maybe we shouldn't always be putting all of our eggs into these live service baskets, because they're not working. Like, there's too many of them. People don't have the time to sink into 10 different live service games. And like, if it's just a generic kind of skin of a game that already exists, what is compelling about that? And why are you sinking money into that?
Wikipedia is a little bit conflicted. It says that Firewalk Studios was founded in 2018. Concord was the first game they developed, so not a great start for Firewalk. Firewalk Studios itself also apparently reported that the game was in development for around 8 years. Either way, not great. I'm inclined to agree with you, Nerdbomber, that like, and I would hope we would have said this sort of thing when we talked through the trailer or whatever footage we got at Summer Games Fest, but like, it does feel a little bit like a reskin or like a redo of a game that essentially already exists, right? Now, I want to say, like, I guess I'll break it to you, Nerdbomber, like, peer-to-peer servers are not coming back. I think that's just gone.
But it's so confusing.
I don't think that's a realistic hope for the world. There's just not money in it. I think it's as simple as that. If you let players set up their own servers and play, I don't know if it's unregulated the right word. Like, I don't even know. But like, the devs and the studios and the publishers and all them, like, they have no control over that. And they have no way to make.
But I think if you're going to sunset a game, you should at
that.
least give that option then, because this is not the first game that has been sunset and now you just literally cannot play it. Like, I'm thinking back to games like Evolve, and I don't know, what sort of player count there would even be. But like, think about Left 4 Dead. If Left 4 Dead did not have, peer-to-peer servers, that game would be unplayable right now. And people still love and are passionate about that game. Imagine all of those games just.
But wasn't Left 4 Dead kind of that was a game that was explicitly designed for peer-to-peer servers, was it not?
It was, but I mean,
to me, when I think about Left 4 Dead, that's,
if you even go back though,
so they're not going to take that away from it.
Call of Duty back on the Xbox 360, and that's just what I owned. I didn't have a PS3. Sorry, guys, no parity back in those days. But
same.
The COD servers, there was a host, and if their ping sucked, the match sucked, and sometimes would drop out, but it worked. Yeah,
it did. I think that the gaming industry, whether correct or incorrect, feels that they've evolved beyond that point. And, I will say, and you kind of mentioned, you kind of hedged a little bit yourself. Like, I can't imagine there are many people who lost Concord that are clamoring to get it back. I could be wrong about that. If you're, chime off in the comments or on Twitter or wherever, if you're one of those people. But like you said, the player count was low to begin with. It was languishing, to use the word I used earlier. And they just
I have a revolutionary idea. I think if you want to try a new multiplayer game element or game style, you should package it with a really wonderful single player campaign.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be long, 5 to 6
loud.
hours. Then tack on a multiplayer element. And oh shoot, we used to do that and it worked really well. Mic drop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get any argument from me. So yeah, let us know if you were a Concord player, what you think of all this news. Again, @OW6, @OW Techtic, @OW Nerdbomber, and our main show account at Online Warriors 1. We have a PS from Techtic.
Call of Duty story was why I bought the games initially. Online multiplayer was secondary at one point.
Yeah. And I know we sound like old people who are back in my day, it was better. But think about all of the fun multiplayer formats that never would have taken off if not for being packaged with a single player campaign. Like, even look at Halo. I'm pretty sure the campaign was first and foremost. That's why it existed. And the multiplayer was tacked on secondary, and it's huge still.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, back in the era of games like Halo, I don't know that you were designing games for the multiplayer exclusively. Like, you probably were, but it was much more rare than it is now. Again, because now that's where the money is, there's a lot of games like Concord that are like, okay, we are a multiplayer game and that's it. And you're going to love it. It's basically Overwatch, but a little different and more fun. It's like, all right, is it? It doesn't bring anything else to the table, right? It has no chance to.
I blame Fortnite.
I think we're all in agreement
Beyonce's
here.
Never going to write a song called Concord.
I think you can blame Fortnite. I think that's the correct laying of blame.
Because that was the tipping point.
But I don't know.
I believe. That was when I know technically Fortnite did have a story mode, but that felt like the tipping point where it was people are only playing this for its online component. And so we're going to screw everything else and we're just going to focus on online. And then everything followed suit. Damn Fortnite.
It's news to me that Fortnite had a campaign. I did not even know that. It's wild to me. We're going to take a short break now before coming back to talk about the Phantom of the Opera. But before we do that, I would be remiss. It's been a little bit of time, and I would be remiss if I did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Stephen Keller. Stephen's been supporting the show for quite a while now at the highest of our 3 levels of support, and that's the night level. So as a knight, he gets access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, input into the weekly game segment, of course, producer shout out on the show, as well as the occasional guest spot on the show. There's also a Squire level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So again, that's patreon.com/online warriors podcast. Head over there, chat with us, chat with Steven. Just talk about how great the show is. Or I guess how sucky the show is. If you want to subscribe to our Patreon just to tell us that we suck, who are we to stop you? You know, we have the Patreon for a reason. Whatever your reason may be for subscribing to it, that's your business. So again, thanks again to Steven. We'll be right back to talk about Phantom of the Opera.
Hello, meat popsicles. Why don't you grab your multipass, a drink, and come sit with us?
Let's pick each other's brain. We want you to be part of our intimate conversation about science fiction topics.
Let's do this. Join us, and let's talk about science fiction topics in books, movies, TV shows, and games.
At Science Fiction Remnant, you are invited to listen in.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And don't forget your multipass.
All right, we are back. We need to talk about the Phantom of the Opera, which here's my exposure to Phantom of the Opera. When I was in, I think, middle school, I was in the middle school band, and one of the songs we played was a medley of a lot of the songs from Phantom of the Opera. And I was like, dang, this music slaps. And then I didn't ever see the show or the movie. I know Gerard Butler's in the movie, and that girl from Shameless is also in the movie. Now they're making a new movie, and it's going to be YA. Now, this is Disney Plus in early development on, it's just called Phantom, I guess, which is a movie reimagination of the novel. It was originally a novel. Being led by Kenny Ortega, who apparently has led 2 major Disney franchises with High School Musical and The Descendants. High School Musical, obviously, everyone knows. The Descendants I'm not familiar with, but it's probably just because I'm old now. I don't know. Let's talk about this, because first of all, have you guys seen Phantom of the Opera? Are you familiar with the gist of Phantom of the Opera? Because, I know the gist.
I've
never seen it, but I get the idea.
I'm a big Phantom of the Opera girly. I've probably seen it, live, the actual show, not on Broadway, but you know how Broadway travels. I've seen that probably 4 times in person. And then the movie version I've seen as well. The movie version, not as good. I give Emmy Rossum and Gerard Butler their flowers, they sang well, et cetera, et cetera. But there's nothing quite like seeing it in person live. So I'm a big Phantom of the Opera girly.
I think this is going to go so hard. I feel very good about this. Not having watched Phantom of the Opera, but knowing how much of a phenomenon High School Musical was. I think this is going to go so hard. I think this is an amazing idea.
I do not trust the Disneyfication of this IP at all.
This is
okay.
A dark story.
How could you not?
This is a very dark story, and I don't know if you can Disneyfy this very well.
Fucking watch them. I'm
trying. Sure, but I'm struggling, I guess. So one of the things that made High School Musical work so well for Kenny Ortega was
when Gabriella died.
No, it was very approachable. Gabriella did not die. It was, we're all on this together, upbeat. Everybody could see themselves in a character in this movie. I know he's done other stuff. He wasn't just the High School Musical guy, but to me, that when I think of him, that is his biggest hit.
But High School Musical worked because it was new. It was just high school. It wasn't based off of anything. So you have a foundation of what is the Phantom of the Opera, and you're going to Disneyfy it, and people are going to hate it.
I'll tell you one thing right now, and again, not knowing the full, because here's my view of the full story. Phantom of the Opera.
I have to walk a statement back real quick.
Here's my view of it.
Kenny Ortega has done more than High School Musical. As the biggest Hocus Pocus stan in the entire world. He did Hocus Pocus as well, so I'm wrong.
He did Hocus Pocus? Was he even old enough for that?
Kenny Ortega is like an older man. But yeah, he's most well
thinking of
known for
Jenny
High School
Ortega.
Musical, The Newsies, Hocus Pocus, Cheetah Girls, The Descendants.
Cheetah Girls?
He also
Oh, this is gonna be
choreographed
such a hit.
stuff like
Never mind, I'm
Xanadu,
back
St.
in.
Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Dirty Dancing.
He did Ferris Bueller.
No,
All
he
right, I'm in.
choreographed. So like he has been around the block. I will say Hocus Pocus makes me have faith that he might be able to do a darker bent.
I mean, there's one thing I know for sure. Like, my understanding of the story of Phantom of the Opera is that there's a dude who lives under the opera house. He's an uggo. He's got something going on with his face. And the whole drama of it is like, he's in love with this chick, but he's an uggo. This person in the Disney version is not going to be ugly, and in fact, they're going to be extremely hot. That is pretty much a given. Can we agree on that? Like, it's going to be like the next Zac Efron is going to be like the Phantom, which kind of, I feel like, probably devalues the premise a little bit. So I'm kind of starting to see what you're saying here, Nerdbomber. I don't know if that's the darkness you're referring to. I'm guessing you're referring to some deeper darkness than just the guy being disfigured.
He lives in like, if you aren't familiar with the premise of the Phantom of the Opera, so essentially the main female character, her father is dead and she is under the tutelage of this like dance company boarding house. Like she's a opera singer, right? So she's being trained, but she's like a young girl. And the Phantom in the real Phantom of the Opera is like older. He's much older than she is, but he's disfigured. He's been like shunned from society, but he loves the opera and he lives in the walls and has this like dark dungeon. And he kind of like, he uses his music to like train her, but also kind of, now it's kind of creepy to think about, which is why I think basically grooms her to have relations with him. And then Christine, the main female character, actually finds like a real hubby who's not living in the walls. And then there is basically like a witch hunt for the Phantom because they're like, ew, this guy is grooming her. So there's a lot going on here that you're going to have to approach with some like modern day more.
They could do it. They can do it. I feel pretty confident, and I feel like the girlies are going to be swooning for the Phantom. I stand by that opinion. I would hope that they would tone it down with the groomer.
Well, they'll make them the same age, so inherently you'll get rid of that.
You know who they should cast? Freddie.
Can he sing? He's the hot funeral director from Love is Blind UK, and I feel like he's a little too old.
Wait, is Love is Blind back? Oh, wait, no. You said UK.
Yo, you should watch that. Love is Blind UK is phenomenal. I forgot we haven't talked about it with you. Not to offshoot, but like you should watch it. Infinitely better than any of the recent US seasons.
The US season, the next one is like next month or something. I just saw a little thing that's like, hey, we're coming back in. It's going to be Washington, D.C. So there's going to be like some... I'm about to slam on Washington, D.C. I feel like there's going to be some really messed up dudes from Washington, D.C. who are on this show. I guess if you're from Washington, D.C., chime off in the comments. Let me know that I'm wrong. But I feel like it's going to be a lot of like crazy politic guys. So I'm maybe more interested than ever in watching Love is Blind. Anyways, Phantom of the Opera, the YA remake. No release date on this, but it's coming to Disney Plus, and I stand by. I think it's going to be a phenomenon. I guess we'll see, but updates on that to come. It's time for What Are You Up To Wednesday. This is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. I have a jam-packed What Are You Up To Wednesday. I'm going to say a lot of stuff. I'm going to keep it brief. That is my goal. I read the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle in like three sittings, 2 of which were on a plane. I think the reason that I read it that way, the main point I want to make about the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle is that if you like come home from a long day at work and you're like, I want to unwind with a cozy mystery, which I often do, by the way, with like Agatha Christie and Anthony Horowitz. If you wanted that experience, you should find a different book. This book is very intense. This is probably the most high concept, intellectual murder mystery I have ever read. And I've read a lot of murder mysteries. It is very, very well plotted. It is very densely plotted. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of time jumping. And you need to exert your full level of focus to keep all of the threads in place. That is what I will say about it. It was a fantastic experience. I maybe will never read another book like it. Not because I don't want to, just because I'm not sure there is another one like it. If you're a fan of mystery and also a fan of time loops, I would recommend this book. Otherwise, watching like 3 shows right now. So kind of have a bunch of balls in the air. We've gotten into season 3 of The Bear. We just watched the first episode of season 3, and it was so boring I almost died. So I'm hoping that it improves. Nothing happened. The whole first episode is like, when are they going to do stuff? And it's just like, no, they're not. He's just like, he's going through something, and there's a million time jumps, and it's just him cooking food. I will say, the season 2 episode that everyone talks about, Fishes, where they're at the Christmas dinner.
Anxiety inducing.
That's usually something.
Anxiety inducing. Did you watch it in one sitting?
Really something. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long. It was, yeah, I mean, it's heavy. The whole show is kind of heavy. That show being a comedy is one of the greatest cons that's ever been committed. Like, it's not a comedy. Like, yeah, there's a couple times that I've chuckled, but it's not a comedy. Like, Emmys, what are you doing? It's not a comedy. It doesn't count. Great show, though. We're also watching Rings of Power is back. We watched season 1. We're watching season 2. I don't have a whole lot to say about that so far. We're only 2 episodes in. It's, like, pretty good. Not like, it hasn't blown my hair back yet. What has blown my hair back, pretty much fully, is The Only Murders in the Building. We're into season 4 of that show now. And are you guys Only Murders?
We
people?
are, but we haven't started the new season yet. We like to wait because it's coming out week by week, correct?
It is. It's coming out week by week. So I've watched, as of this recording, I've only watched 2. The 3rd episode comes out tomorrow. What I will say is that it's throwing heaters right out of the gate. It is so good. The writers of that show, the talent on that show, in terms of the 3 leads in particular, like, they're just at the height of their powers right now. It's one of the best shows. It's one of the best shows you can stream. I could not be happier with that show. That's really it for me. I have done some traveling. I've been very busy, but I've managed to do a lot of reading and a lot of TV watching. I'm still playing God of War Ragnarok. It's going to take me a while to finish that, and I probably won't update until I do. So you might not be hearing much video game stuff from me for a while, but I am still playing it. Techtic, why don't you keep us rolling?
All right,
here?
so I only got really 2 updates. The first one is I'm still playing through Tears of the Kingdom. Not much really to go on, just it's a lot of game. So I'm chugging away at that. And then the other thing is Nerdbomber and I watched The Fall Guy. And I have to say, this is a fun watch. It's very entertaining. It is based on the show that came out many moons ago. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. I'd probably give it a high 70 out of 100. But it was a little long. It was a 2-hour movie, and at times it seemed just serendipitous in the way that things worked out. And so that always kind of just feels like a forced plot, and I'm not a fan of that. But overall, it was good. It was fun, and I do recommend it.
So are you glad we didn't watch the director's cut, which was another half an hour longer?
Yes.
I almost watched The Fall Guy on the plane, on one of my plane rides, and then I don't know, I decided not to.
I thought it was quite good.
It sounds like yeah, I'm sure I would like it fine. I don't know if it would wow me. It sounds like it didn't wow you.
I don't know if it was even meant to wow. I think it did something that it was actually intending to do, where it made me appreciate stunt actors and stuntmen. And I call them stunt actors because they have to act as well. Like, I think it gave me a lot more perspective and context on stuntmen, and I appreciate it for what it did there.
And
it was an ode to stuntmen, and I think it did
And
that
women.
very well. And women, yes.
Word. It's one of those movies. I'm sure I'm going to watch it eventually. I just haven't yet.
It's on Peacock now, so
I'll have to look into that. Very good. Nerdbomber, that leaves us with you.
All right, so I was in a little bit of a reading rut for a little bit. I started reading Rachael Bloome's autobiography, memoir style book, and have you ever read something and it just is not hitting? And I'm the type of person where I will struggle through a book even if it's not hitting with me. And I don't know if it's just I wasn't in the mood for that type of book when I started reading it, or the just way it was written just wasn't working for me. I do like Rachael Bloome. She did Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, if you're familiar with that show. But yeah, I got about halfway through the book, and then I realized I hadn't read for probably 3 weeks because I was just dreading reading the book, and I put it down. So I picked something else up, and even though I knew the end was the book that I picked up, which got me back into reading, it's more of a novella than a novel. The premise is, this is kind of back in Prohibition era, but there's also magical things. So this is kind of an alternate history where demons and angels and magic are all kind of a thing. And it's sort of like a murder mystery where this person who has gotten kicked out of the big collective of magicians becomes a detective and a private eye and is hired to figure out why a series of human sacrifice murders are taking place in Chicago. And it was a very quick read. Like I said, I've read it in a day, but it got me back into it. It was something different, something very drastically different than what had kind of put me in the reading rut. And I don't think it was like a 5 out of 5 style book, but I think it was like a solid 3.5 to 4. I think maybe if it was a little bit longer and had some more world building, it would have worked a little bit better. But it was entertaining enough. There was enough like mystery and magic that I enjoyed it, and it got me back into reading. So thank you to that book.
Sorry, what was the
Even
book
though
called?
I knew the end.
Even though except the way you described the book, I thought you were talking about the
was.
book. Even though I knew the
sorry.
end
Yeah,
of
that
the
was
book.
the title of the book.
I was like, she didn't say that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Should have been more clear.
No, you're good.
And then with video games, so I'm still playing NHL, rounding out my Hut team as they're moving into NHL 25, I think, next year. Also, RIP to the Gaudreau brothers. But I then tried to move on to Neon White, which was an indie game that I've wanted to play for a while. There's like cards that you pick up and it gives you different abilities, and it's like a speedrunning type game. And I realized it was kind of like stressing me out. And the movement was just very fast, and it was just not, again, something that I was in the mood for. So I will be moving on to Astrobot. I don't have any thoughts about it yet because I haven't started it yet, but Techtic was amazing and surprised me with it today. So it is currently installing on the PS5 as we speak, and I'm looking forward to playing that, and hopefully we'll have more to say about that in the near future.
Shout out Techtic, Husband of the Year
What a
Award
guy.
nominee. I think Techtic, are you the quiz host today,
It is
or
me.
is it just Nerdbomber?
It's high.
We're going to Quiz Town. I was about to. Well, yeah, Techtic, you're riding a high right now, but I'm about to smack you down.
No, because I
guess
bribed
just get
her.
ready for that.
He did not. I can't be bought.
Listen, let's not. Okay, I have a lot on the line here. I don't want to have to not follow through with another bet. Let's see what our records are here in the Online Warriors quiz. Nerdbomber 12-6, so she's still on top. I am 10-8, and Techtic 7-14. So Techtic's been climbing the ladder, doing honest work. And Steven 1-1, by the way, lest I forget. So I would be looking to maintain my supremacy today. Nerdbomber, what is the topic this week?
I hope you're ready to be brought back to life because this topic is Evanescence. Would help if I could pronounce the band name.
Wake me up.
Wake me up inside.
Can't wake up.
All right.
Wake me up inside.
Save me.
Save me from the nothing I've become. Or is this part of the? Is this?
Yeah,
the
this
quiz?
is just
Oh,
it. I
this
just
is
really
fine.
wanted to hear you guys sing, honestly. But no, as per usual, Price is Right style. Whoever gets closest to the number without going over is going to win. You get a lifeline, which is either a +1 or a number 1. At any point, you can each use that one time. And let's get into it. How many times, according to setlist.fm, has Evanescence played Bring Me to Life at a concert?
I will go first because I have the better record. I mean, it's like every concert they've ever done. So the question is really how many concerts have they done? I mean, boy, 207. It's a lot.
208.
Oh, he used the +1 to great effect. 731 times.
So they've played themselves a good number of shows. Techtic good +1. I respect the gameplay.
And to give you some context, this next question will help you out. In what year was Evanescence founded?
2001.
It's a strong guess, but I think you're too late. Because I feel like that was when they were peaking. Was like right around that time. I'm going to say 1990 just to give myself some buffer.
Smart move. They were actually founded in 1994. So if you think about the number of concerts there, because you had guessed originally like 200s, 731, assuming that they toured every year, which obviously we know that's not true, but that would only be like 25 concerts a year. So it's a tight game, boys.
Bands do crazy tours.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing like 2 shows every weekend. I mean, it's So we're in it now.
We're in it.
Techtic made the best man win.
How many total Grammy nominations has Evanescence received? This is nominations, not
5.
wins.
5.
It's a strong guess, but this is nominations, not wins. So I'm going to say 9.
5. It's 5.
You know, if you didn't have a bus rule, you guys would have tied. But because we do have a bus rule, Illeagle gets this one. They have received 7 Grammy nominations in their
That's
long
what
career.
my gut was telling me, but that felt like too close and unfair.
All right. What is the total runtime of their latest album, which was released in 2021, called The Bitter Truth? That's right. They are still releasing music and they're still touring.
And they still rock. I actually don't know that. I'm just saying that.
Techtic, it's you. Don't overthink this now. There's no math really here. Unless you know the album. Like,
There is absolutely math. There's always math if you're Techtic.
and he's whipping out the calculator.
33 minutes.
Okay.
33 minutes and 1 second.
So Illeagle seals his victory here. It was 47 minutes and 19 seconds.
Does he seal it?
He does.
Techtic
He's got
nailed it
3
in.
points now.
Yeah, that was it. I played you, man. You got.
We do have one more question.
So now we're just having a
this
good
is just
time.
for funsies. As of when I pulled this data about 3 hours ago, how many total views do they have on their YouTube? So around 6 p.m. EST on September 9th, 2024, how many views do they have on their YouTube channel?
Like of all their videos.
All of their videos.
So it's basically like 1 billion on Wake Me Up Inside, and then like, oh, they haven't crossed 1 billion with that. I'm gonna say 700,200,005.
10 million.
Sorry.
And Illeagle takes this because they're over 3.8 billion views.
What? He said 7 million.
I said 700 million. She said billion, dude.
700
Be-
million is bigger than
Yeah, I
the-
was saying 10 of the 100 million.
What? You
What?
said 10 million.
Okay, you just said 100 million, so you are disqualified. I take this one home. I move to 11 and 8. Techtic moves to 7 and
We need
15.
to establish that 100 million is a number.
100 million. And Nerdbomber stays at 12 and 6. So next week, I will be hosting the quiz. Nerdbomber, if you lose, you're officially in the I may be able to tie you the week after zone. So I guess just, I don't know. Be thinking about that. Let that bring you a lot of stress. You can head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast. Leave us a review there. Let us know if you liked it, if you hated it. Head over to Twitter. Hit us up at the handles mentioned previously in the episode. Again, let us know if you liked it or you hated it. Or just talk to us about anything we talked about on the show. Or like anything at all. Anything. Again, that's Twitter or X, whatever your inclination is. And, tell your friends. Tell your wife. Tell your bus driver. And stay safe and keep on podcasting.